welcome to another edition of the Nashville Native. I'm your host, like always, Justin Hawkins. Thank you so much for joining us. If you're new to the show, welcome. Please be sure to follow on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter for all things Nashville sports content. This is your reminder on the show that we talk all things Nashville sports. That includes the Tennessee Titans, the Nashville Predators, the Nashville SC, Tennessee Vols, Vanderbilt Commodores, whatever, Tennessee sports, Nashville sports, what have you. This is where you can get all that sports content. So today we've got a really good show for you. We've got some updates on the Titans. We've got some updates on the Preds. We talk about the Christmas traditions because, on Sunday, Christmas Day is here. So that's exciting. So you don't want to miss anything on this show. So stay tuned. Let's get started. All right, everybody. So the Tennessee Titans lost for their fourth straight game on Sunday to none other than the Los Angeles Chargers in LA. And it was a thrilling game. It was a battle to the end. It was a battle of the defenses, or lack thereof of the offenses. Coming into the game, I was sure that the LA Chargers were going to light up the Tennessee Titans because of their high-caliber passing attack. They do have a good ground game with Austin Eckler, but I just thought this defense, based on what we saw with the Jacksonville Jaguars, with the two games before that they couldn't handle the deep pass, or they couldn't handle pass in general because of the injuries. And, but they really stood strong. Kevin Byard and Roger McCreary had interceptions. We'll get to Roger McCreary's interception in just a little bit, but they came up in big times. Now, McCreary's came at the end of the first half, so not a lot of impact there, but it just secured the Chargers not getting a touchdown is all that really came down to. So the defense really played well. I think they played well enough to get the win. Now, what did the offense do? It was not so much. So, it came down to, again, this offense is just not good enough. You have to look at all up and down the lineup. You have to look at the coaches, from Mike Vrabel, from Todd Downing, and then on to the players. It's Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, the offensive line, the receivers, or lack thereof. You've got the injuries. It's all comes to play here, and they're just not good enough. It's how many times can we say the play calls that are coming in? What's the personnel that's coming into the game? Why are you putting on third down? We'll get to that in just a second. But on third down, why are you not putting your best players out there? Now, look, for those of you who didn't watch the game on Sunday, Ryan Tannehill went down again with his ankle injury. He first went down, I can't remember exactly what game. It was a home game. It was the week before the Houston Texans game. So it's just kind of ironic that he goes down each time before the Texans game. I think it was the Colts, actually. And so, he goes down. He doesn't play in the Texans game, and it doesn't look like he's going to play this week against the Texans. But he goes down. He gets carted off. So then Malik Willis comes in. Whatever you may have thought that the outlook would have been before Tannehill went down, all you could have imagined was this is going to be a blowout if Tannehill doesn't play. Now, he ended up coming back in the game. Like I said, if you didn't see it, he was carted off, missed a series, and then he came back into play. But, it's just the injuries are adding up. The offensive coordinator is not getting the right play calls out, in my opinion. Why? What it comes down to mostly is the personnel. The personnel is very questionable. That's not on the players. Sure, execution is key. Mike Vrabel harps on that almost every week when they lose, especially when they lose. And this is what kind of grinds my gears sometimes, is that Mike Vrabel is probably his first thing is to make these sly comments about the players and not executing and not doing this, not getting to their spots, or the receivers not getting open, or Derrick Henry's not hitting the holes, or he's not doing this, or the defense is not doing that. But where is the coaching accountability? This is what I keep talking about, and it's time for the coaches to get accountability. I'm going to do it. I'm going to say it every week until it happens. Now, do I expect Todd Downing to be here at the end of the season? No, because 2 years of straight bottom of the league offense, there's got to be changes. Now, look, we'll get a new GM at the year because obviously John Robinson is not here anymore. So I cannot imagine that whatever new GM is there, he keeps the same offensive coordinator or some of the offensive staff. Like, this O-line sucks. So most of the O-line is probably gone after this year. Kind of rebuild that, start over, through the draft, through free agency, trade, whatever, what have you. So there's going to be a lot of options out there on the end of the season. But, that's not here nor there. Just talking about the game, on Sunday. The Titans lose 17-14. It looked like it was going to go to overtime. Derrick Henry had a really good game. He had 21 carries for over 100 yards. He had a touchdown. Could have had 2 touchdowns, but Ryan Tannehill did a quarterback sneak, and that was pretty cool because it didn't look like he was going to get in. Derrick Henry with a good old push from behind got Tannehill in. So brought that 14-14 towards the end of the game. And then what did the defense do? They were fighting all game long. Offense is not getting them nothing. So I can't imagine that, their spirits were low or anything like that, So with under a minute to play, they drove down and kicked a field goal to win it with time expiring, 17-14, and it just deflated this team. 4 straight losses. It gets to you at some point, and the caliber of losses that you're losing to, you're losing to the Jaguars, who you should be beating. I don't know why I can't even think about who else we lost to. The Eagles, that was a big game we lost to, and I guess I'll have to look it up. But it was not great, and this Titans team is deflated. The defense has got to be deflated. They're giving their all, like I said, and this offense is just coming up short. The Bengals, that's what it was, yeah. The Bengals, the Eagles, the Jags, and now the Chargers. Coming up, you got Houston Texans on Saturday, Christmas Eve, and that was loud. Got Christmas Eve at 12 o'clock against the Houston Texans. And the first time, you only beat them 14-7, but the 7 points they scored with less than a minute to go, so it really didn't matter. And it felt like it was 30-0, really. But, man, this game, it drives you nuts being a Titans fan. It drives you nuts being anything in sports when you witness such terrible offense, and it doesn't even look like they're going to do anything about it. I get it. The injuries are key. You have in your receivers, you've got Racey McMath, Robert Woods, you had Nick Westbrook-Akine, you had Mason Kinsey came out to play. I don't think he played receiver though. He played punt returner. Cody Hollister's not there, so you got that. But then for tight ends, you got Jeff Swain, Austin Hooper, Chika Okonkwo. It's just there's not a lot of weapons out there, and I get it, but at the same time, when it's third down, there's 2 instances where we had 3rd down and 2. Now, sure, were they on the Titans' own end? Yes. But why is Derrick Henry not even in the game? On the second 3rd and 2 in the game, I think it was in the second half, Derrick Henry's not in the game, people. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Now, again, if you don't want to run him, sure, but the element of surprise is when Derrick Henry is in the game, the defense has to account for that. Whether you throw the ball or whether you run the ball, the defense doesn't know because Derrick Henry's in the game. He's one of the best running backs in the game and has been for over 3 to 4 years now. But yet, Todd Downing doesn't understand that, and he took him out, threw the ball to Chika Okonkwo, and Tannehill didn't even hit him. So it's very lackluster. It's very disappointing. It's very frustrating to watch this week in and week out and just know that this offense is just not very good. You got to leave it up to the defense, who has a lot of injuries. Most of the starters that were supposed to start this year, I'm even including Harold Landry here, they're not there. Denico Autry was out. Zach Cunningham was out. David Long is out. Christian Fulton was out on Sunday. It's just when Trey Avery, even your backup was not even in the game. So when your injuries are scarce, or when your starters are scarce, you have to do enough on the other end to counteract that. And I get Tannehill was hurt and he couldn't move all that much, but I just feel like when Derrick Henry was running the ball, especially the Chargers had the worst run defense in the league. They were 32nd coming into Sunday. When you have the worst rush defense, or when you're going up against the worst rush defense in the league, why not continue to run the ball? Like I said, Derrick Henry had 21 carries, 104 yards, and a touchdown. In my opinion, why not run him 30 times? He's running over 5 yards a carry, or 4 yards a carry. Actually, I just looked up. It's exactly 5 yards a carry. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me that one of the best running backs in the league, who's actually dominating that defense in the run game, and the offensive line is doing okay, they just go away from the run game. He's grinding it out. He's pounding the defense, and yet they continue to pass. And it eventually overcame too much to where they had to take him out at the end of the game because he's a little bit of a liability in the passing game. He can block a little bit, but when it comes to getting yardage, he's not great in the screen game. Now, if there's no pressure in the beginning of the game, Derrick Henry, in my opinion, is way underutilized in the screen game because he can catch the ball now sometimes, but when he does, he gets up the field and he gains plenty of yards. He had 4 catches for 59 yards. Derrick Henry did. He was your leading receiver on Sunday, so Derrick Henry was doing it all for the Titans. Yet, it just wasn't enough because the offense with injuries, the lackluster offensive coordinator is just not doing enough. This offense is just not doing enough. The Titans should be winning more games. They should not be 7-7. It's not enough. It's not good enough. And here we are. We're sitting 7-7 going into Week 16, and the Titans' AFC South hopes are coming down. 4 weeks ago there was about a 90 to 100% chance that the Titans were going to win the AFC South. Now coming into this, they're about a 60% chance of winning the South because you know why? The Jacksonville Jaguars are getting hot at the right time. Trevor Lawrence and their offense and their defense is playing well. We saw that last Sunday when they came into Nissan Stadium and took care of business. This Tennessee Titans team they're diminished. They're frustrated. You can see that in some of the post-game interviews. They're frustrated. It's very concerning to see, whatever players and team, their coaches they're putting in the lineup, they don't have confidence right now. Now, hopefully coming in Saturday afternoon, the Texans come to town. That gives them that confidence back because obviously the Texans are the worst team in the league. I don't know, people. You tell me. This is not just me here. I want to know your opinions. I want to know what you think of the Titans and the current state of their franchise right now because you have Derrick Henry. Now, you're going against another terrible run defense. And look, the past 4 games against the Houston Texans, Derrick Henry has rushed for over 200 yards. That's got to be the same medicine on Saturday. Just run the ball. If I'm Todd Downing and I look at my giant play sheet, my first 5 things should say, run Derrick Henry, run Derrick Henry. And if you're not running him, what are you doing? Now it came out yesterday, the injury report, and here it is. Look how long it is. Now this is Tuesday. This is their first day of practice. So there's obviously going to be some people on here that won't be on there for today. Wednesday's injury report won't be on there for Thursdays. Maybe more. Man, I swear this dog is crazy, but we're going to be pushing on because you know what? It is what it is. So look. Let's just go down the list here. You got Dylan Cole with an ankle. Danico Autry, who's not injury-related, did not practice, but he did last week. So, how is he 100%? Is he 80%? We're never going to know unless he plays. So, coming with the Houston Texans, I feel like you can kind of milk some of the injuries a little bit just to get a little healthier because you have Dallas and the Jags your last 2 weeks. So, you need to be more healthy later in the week. Nate Davis, who had the ankle, he played on Sunday. Christian Fulton did not play last week. He's got his groin injury. Ben Jones with a concussion. Now, he played the whole game. That's a little bit concerning because he's already been out this year with a concussion. So, what's the protocol going on with him there? Is it precaution? Usually when you put a concussion on there on the injury report, he's got to go through that 5-day protocol. That 5-day protocol involves rest. It involves return to play with gradual action as far as working out goes and eventually getting on the practice field. What's the process with that? Obviously, the Titans are very, quiet about when they talk about injuries. So, Terrence Mitchell had a hamstring. That didn't look pretty good. He left for the rest of the game on Sunday. And then you've got Dylan Radunz, who went down with the knee. Dylan Radunz, let's just talk about Dylan Radunz for a minute. He came into the game, obviously he was a second-round draft pick last year in the 2021 draft, and, nothing but negativity has surrounded Dylan Radunz. He was supposed to become the left guard. He was supposed to be the right tackle. He was supposed to be something, and he's been anything but. Now, with that being said, he's had a lot of practice time and a lot of time to get ready, and because of Dennis Daly and the issues, we're not even going to talk about Dennis Daly anymore because it's just frustrating to talk about him and Aaron Brewer. They're bad. It is what it is. So Dylan Radins, came in and, there was questions. Was Dennis Daly going to start? Was he going to be a backup? Was LaRaven Clark going to be in there? LaRaven Clark didn't even play. But Dennis Daly started the game. Dylan Radins came in and actually played pretty well. Now, unfortunately, what's the theme with this Titans team? Injuries. So Dylan Radins went down with the injury, didn't play the rest of the game, but what he did play, he was pretty well. Some of the on Derrick Henry's touchdown, that whole series, Dylan Radins played, and he was one of the better offensive tackles in the game on Sunday. He was a big part in Derrick Henry scoring his touchdown. He was a big part in just that whole drive in general, but he went down, and now he's questionable. He's probably not going to play next week, so you've got Dennis Daly again, so it is what it is with that. Ryan Tannehill rolled his ankle. He scrambled. He got tackled from behind by Khalil Mack, and if you saw that, it did not look pretty. He rolled his ankle on the inside, so usually when you roll your ankle on the inside like that, it's your deltoid ligament. It's a little bit different than the outside. The outside of the ankle is the most common way to roll your ankle. When you roll it like this, like that. He rolled it the other way, and that's a little bit harder to deal with. Maybe not as much swelling will go to that side of the ankle, but there's more ligaments. There's three. I can't find the camera. There's three there, and they kind of sit like this on the ankle, on that outside malleolus there, or the inside malleolus there, and so. This morning, so today's Wednesday. This morning, the Titans actually announced that they're signing Josh Dobbs to the roster. So that pretty much tells me that Malik Willis will be starting this week, which is fine. The last time he played, or the first game he started, was against the Houston Texans. We won. He did just enough. He handed the ball off to Derrick Henry, and that's all he needed to do. And that's all he needs to do this week. So Ryan Tannehill is something we all need to monitor, see how he's doing. Ankle injuries, especially now that this is his third time hurting the ankle this year. Now he's missed. This would be his third game now that he's missed. So it's something to monitor. It's something that if the Titans win on Saturday, honestly, you probably don't play Tannehill until the Jags game in Week 18. That's the game that really matters. So we'll get to the AFC outlook in just a minute, but so Tannehill's probably going to be out. He's very doubtful. Josh Thompson with a concussion didn't play much. He's more of a special teams guy. Dennis Daly was not injury related earlier. Denico Autry with a knee, but he's been practicing, so I already spoke on that. Trey Avery had a concussion. He didn't play last week, so we'll see what's going on this week. Aaron Brewer with the rib. Derrick Henry not injury related. Now that's just probably rest. Then you've got Amani Hooker with a knee, Nicholas Petit-Frere with an ankle. If you see where I'm going with this, there's 5 offensive linemen on the injury report. How great is that? How much confidence does that give you going into a week? It's week 17 or 16, and you have all 5 offensive linemen on the injury report. Sounds great. Just sounds great. That's the thing of the Titans. Jeffrey Simmons with the ankle. He's been nursing that most of the season. Andrew Adams with a wrist injury. Traylon Burks with a concussion. Now, hopefully Traylon Burks can get his action this week. But, again, it's the Houston Texans. I don't want to just knock them off and just say we're going to win, because the Titans have showed you that they almost can beat nobody the way they've been playing. So in the Texans, if you look at the past couple of weeks, they almost beat the Cowboys 2 weeks ago. They almost beat the Kansas City Chiefs last week. So it's in the Titans' wheelhouse to lose this game. Now, does it matter so much? No, because really what it comes down to is the Jacksonville Jaguars and what they're going to do coming up. They play the Jets this Sunday. Zach Wilson, or their starting quarterback from last week, Mike White, went down. Zach Wilson's going to start this week. Zach Wilson sucks, but So the Jags can easily win that game. Now the Jets have a really good defense, so hopefully they can hold the Jags and lose. But, the injury report is not great. There's at least 15 players here. That's not great. So look, we've talked about Derrick Henry. We talked about the O-line because it's very frustrating to see this O-line come strut out there week in and week out and not protect Tannehill. They can't block. They can't run block. Then you've got the injuries. Talked about that. Let's talk about the defense, though. The defense came up. They came to play. They had 2 interceptions, like I said. They held them to 17 points, which is great because the Chargers, are one of the better offenses in the league. They've had Keenan Allen out most of the year. They've had, my goodness, this dog. They had Keenan Allen out most of the year. They had some time without Mike Williams, their wide receiver 2. So this offense has been up and down, but when they're healthy, they're one of the best offenses in the league behind third-year quarterback Justin Herbert, who's really good. He's got a good arm. He can run. He can do this. He can do that. But the Titans came to play. They had DeMarcus Walker had 2 sacks. I think they had 4 sacks in total. The defense played really well. Jeffrey Simmons is, he finally got a sack after a few games. In the last 3 weeks, in their last, the Bengals, the Eagles, and the Jags, they got 1 sack between the 3 weeks. And then this week they got 3 sacks. DeMarcus Walker had 2 of them, and then Jeffrey Simmons had the other one. So the defense played well. They did enough for the offense to take over. The offense did not take over, like I said. So the defense played well. They had the key. So after Tannehill threw, the only turnover that the Titans had in the game was Tannehill's interception. After Tannehill threw that interception, it gave the Chargers good field position. But right after that, Kevin Byard stepped up and took the ball back by intercepting Justin Herbert. So that was a key play, but then again, the Titans didn't do anything off of it, so what did it really matter? That's the deflating part about this Titans offense and why the defense sometimes is just, they give all their effort and they don't get anything in return. And that's if I was a player, that's what would be most deflating to me, is that, as much as this side of the ball does for you, you do not return the favor. And that's what happened. Now, the other interception was a fantastic interception by Roger McCreary. Well, he didn't intercept it. It was Josh KALU. But what a play by Roger McCreary to keep this inbounds. And this actually is our best moment of the week. Here we are. Justin Herbert steps back to pass, throws it deep into the end zone, and Roger McCreary is going to go out of bounds, but he uses amazing football IQ, knowing he's going out of bounds, and bats it back into Josh KALU's hand, who secures it inbounds for the interception. Now, like I said, this is going into the end of the second quarter there, into the halftime, so it really didn't matter that he intercepted it, but what it did is he just took it away from the Chargers from giving them another shot. So what a great play this was, and Roger McCreary, he's a rookie this year out of Auburn. He's had his ups and downs like all rookies do, but he's played very well this season, in my opinion, as a rookie. He tackles well, which is, I can't say that for all of Titans cornerbacks or players, but he tackles well. He plays hard. Now, he's gotten beat in coverage. He tends to be there. He may get beat in coverage, but he's there. He's making the play on the ball. Maybe he gets beat, but he makes the tackle, or he's close. Now, with a little more experience going into second and third year, Roger McCreary can be that dude for the Titans to be the number 1, number 2 cornerback. But what an amazing play by Roger McCreary. This kind of solidifies why the Titans made a great selection in round 2 of this year's NFL draft. Maybe it was a little questionable at first, but he's had nothing but a good year. He's probably been the best draft pick thus far for the Titans 22 draft class, and so it was great. But so that was the best moment of the week, and that was great. So, but with this loss, the 17-14 loss to the Chargers, Titans moved to 7-7. And so let's look into the AFC outlook. I mentioned the Jaguars. The Jags have they play the Jets on Sunday. If they lose and the Titans win, that puts them 2 games ahead. The Titans would move to 8-7, and the Jags would move to 6-8. No, let's see. What are they? 6-9. So basically what it all comes down to is Week 18. The Titans would go to Jacksonville and play their final game of the season. Now, here's the thing: the Titans can lose this week and they can lose next week and still be up for the division. The Jags can win this week and win next week, and it still be fine. It all comes down to the tiebreakers, and it comes down to what can the Titans win. Now, right now, the Jags are 6-8. The Titans are 7-7. So they're one game behind. Titans are one game ahead. So what it does is makes the Titans go to 7-9 going into the final game, and it makes the Jags go into 8-7. Do I have that right? No, 8-8. They would go 8-8 into the final game. Basically, so if the Titans win that Week 18 game, they would go into 9-8 or 8-9, whatever it is, and the Jags would also be 8-9. But the Titans would win the tiebreaker based on strength of schedule, based on the wins that they have head to head. They'd be tied in that manner. But the division wins. Titans have won all their division games except for the one against Jacksonville last week. So Titans would win the AFC South based on that. So really all it comes down to is that Week 18 game. The Titans just need to get through Saturday and next Thursday against the Dallas Cowboys and get to that game. That's really what is most important right now. So let the Jaguars handle their business or whatever. Hopefully they lose and it just makes things much easier, because it'd be nice to go 2 games ahead of them going into that Week 18 game. So then it doesn't matter as much. But you want to win your games, regardless. It's football, everybody. Everybody wants to win it. Nobody wants to see the Titans lose their 5th straight, their 6th straight, or what have you. But, it's not looking great right now. So, now coming into the game on Saturday, we've got the Houston Texans. And, like I said, 4 straight games against the Texans. Derrick Henry has rushed for over 200 yards. It would be great to see them do that. Now, the Titans have pissed away 2 straight 100-yard games by Derrick Henry against the Jags and last week against the Chargers. They cannot piss away a 200-yard game or something close to that manner against the Texans on Saturday. Now, look, the Texans know, especially if Tannehill's not going to be in the game, they're going to run the ball. That's fine. Run the ball. You can run the ball. You have one of the best running backs in the game who actually had a really good game last week. The 21 carries for 104 yards doesn't say everything about what he did. There were some glimpses of vintage Derrick Henry last week that I thought, he ran outside and beat some people out. There were times he ran a couple of people over. That was things that you would see last year, the year before, that we haven't really seen this year, but he showed it last week. We need that. The Titans need to continue that manner next week against the Texans. That's simple game plan. Run the ball and defense, do your job. That's pretty much all you got to do, because Malik Willis needs to do just enough. So, Titans signed Josh Dobbs off the Lions practice squad, so he'll be the backup. I wouldn't look into much about him being playing for the Vols or anything like that. I wouldn't look into. It's just he's going to be the backup. He probably is not going to play unless, God forbid, Malik Willis gets hurt. But they need to do just enough to win. I don't care what the score is. Titans are probably going to win ugly. They typically do, but they just need to run the ball, run Derrick Henry, and let him go crazy. Just let him go crazy. Now, if you want to look into stats, Derrick Henry is 2nd in the league in rush yards on the season behind Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs was 1,495 yards and Derrick Henry was 1,303, I believe. So he is well behind Josh Jacobs, almost 200. He probably is not going to win the rushing crown this year. That's fine. He just needs to do what he needs to do to get this team to win. That's all he needs to do, and then the rest of the team needs to follow suit. So hopefully some of the injuries come back, but I'm not gonna expect too much out of this game as far as injuries and what gets healthy. It's really next week against the Dallas Cowboys and the Jacksonville Jaguars that you need to be at your most healthiest. Those are the 2 games that really matter. Dallas doesn't really matter as far as a positional standpoint, but they're a really good team, and it would be nice to show that you can beat a good team, a playoff team. The Jags, they beat the Cowboys last week in overtime, so it would be nice to for the Titans fans at least, Titans, show us that you can win some of these good games, because otherwise we're going to go into the playoffs and you're just going to lose. The Titans fans have When's the last time we won a divisional game? That was 2019. And, you won the first round, the second round, lost in the AFC Championship game. That was great. It led you to a lot of success. But ever since then, you've lost in the first round. So, all right, moving on. All right, so before we talk a little bit more about sports, let's go off sports for a minute. Let's talk about Christmas traditions. It is Christmas, this week. It's Sunday. Christmas Eve is Saturday. So, it is. Let's get in the holiday spirit a little bit. I've got holiday behind me. So, what are, in the comments on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, just let me know what your Christmas traditions are. What's your favorite movie? Okay, it's my top 5 Christmas movies. I want to know your top 5 movies, but my top 5 movies are, the classics, right? You've got my number 1 favorite is the Christmas Vacation movie with Chevy Chase. That is, my family watches that every Christmas Eve, and it is a tradition that I look forward to every year. I can almost quote the movie. We've watched it so much now. I can probably sit down and just, I if we watched it together, I would say, hey, this is about to happen. Watch this, and I'll say exactly what they're about to say. If we're not together, the last 2 years for Christmas, we've had COVID and not been able to watch it with my family, watch it by myself. And my dad and I can remember we're talking about it. We're texting, put the quotes from the movie. I mean, it is a hilarious movie. I get it's not for everybody. It's one of those, dry humor. It's silly. It's dumb. I get it, but that's exactly who I am. I love that stuff. So number 2 is The Grinch. I love The Grinch. It's one of the classics, Jim Carrey movies. I mean, it's great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's funny seeing him in that role. Number 3 is Elf. I love Elf with Will Ferrell in it. It's one of those silly, dumb movies that I just really enjoy. One of my favorite parts of that movie is when the big whale comes when the elf Will Ferrell is going to New York to find his dad, Buddy, and when Buddy he's about to get on the little ice, break of ice, and the whale comes out and says, "Bye, Buddy. Hope you find your dad." I literally say that all the time, year round, even, and love that movie. So number 4, we got Polar Express. That is one of the classics. I feel like that's one of those movies you probably watch on Christmas Eve. They don't really talk about Christmas Day or anything like that there. It's a Christmas Eve movie. Everything happens the night before Christmas, and it's a really good animated movie, and it's a very heartfelt movie too. It makes you feel good. It makes you believe. So Tom Hanks does a lot of voices in that, and I think that's really good. So number 5, this one is really a toss-up. There's not it really gets questionable after that. So I'm just going to do the series, and it's Santa Claus. Santa Claus is one of the most classic movies for Christmas that you can ever, Santa Claus 1 is obviously the best. I'm not a big fan of Santa Claus 2. I really do enjoy Santa Claus 3, so if I had to rate it, it would be Santa Claus 1, 3, and 2. So those are great movies. You have to watch those every year. So these are movies that I watch every year. These are my top 5 movies. I watch them all year. Not all year. I watch them every year. So far, I've watched The Elf, and I've watched Santa Clauses. So it's coming up to that point. Now, Christmas Eve is obviously when I watch Polar Express and Christmas Vacation. And then when it comes to The Grinch, probably I might watch that tonight, actually. That's one of those movies I've been in the mood for lately. So that's kind of my Christmas traditions. I want to know what yours are. What's your top 5 movies? Leave those in the comments. Like I said, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Follow me on Facebook or Instagram. Leave me comments, top 5 movies. I'll post that on my social media. So let me know what yours are. When it comes to food, food is really one of those things that it's kind of like, I treat Christmas food kind of like Thanksgiving food. You have a lot of sides and you have your meat, right? I'm a big ham fan and love my sides, mashed potatoes, macaroni and cheese, and all that good stuff. But Christmas, you have a really nice fancy meal. You could have a more like a Thanksgiving meal. We have just a couple side dishes and stuff like that. So I really want to know what y'all's opinions are on your Christmas traditions. It's fun to talk about Christmas spirits and things that you do. Do you go look at lights and stuff like that, Christmas lights? Do you go do adventures on Christmas Eve or around Christmas time? I know on Christmas Eve, my family used to go out to eat and go look at Christmas lights around town in Franklin or in Nashville or anything like that. So just things like that I cherish to this day, and I look forward to those. We're talking about maybe doing that this year. And let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe to YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Let me know what you think. All right, so back to sports. Took a little venture outside of sports. Now back to sports. We'll talk about the Nashville Predators. It's not much to talk about. Last week and the week before, I've been talking about Judgment Day. Well, guess what? It is here. There's no hiding it any longer. Judgment Day is here. Okay. This past week, the Preds had 4 games. They had Edmonton twice last Tuesday. This past Monday, they had Winnipeg last Thursday and Colorado this past Saturday. They went 1-2-1. Okay, their one win was Monday against Edmonton, and their 2 losses were last Tuesday. Edmonton beat them 6-3. On Saturday, Colorado beat them 3-1. Their one overtime loss was 2-1 in Winnipeg. The Preds they don't have a lot of offense right now. It's your high caliber guys of Matt Duchene, Philip Forsberg, Mikhail Granlund, Nino Niederreiter, Roman Josi. They're not showing up. It is what it is. Last year, having so many records with one of the highest scoring defensemen in NHL history last year in Roman Josi, having 95 points. You had your first time you had 40 goal scorers in Matt Duchene, Philip Forsberg. They both had over 80 points per game. This year, they're just not. I talked to Forsberg and Duchene were coming along, and now they're slacking off again. This Preds team is. There's just not much there. They've had some injuries. Ryan McDonough's been out. He hopefully will be coming back into the lineup this week. They're just. I don't know what to say, to be honest with you. This team is not the same team that they once were. I don't know if that's coaching with John Hines. I don't know if that's the player personnel that's been brought in by Hines and David Poile. Or, is the system not working? Are these players not meshing together? They're not the same. Now, one thing I don't know most of you know, John Hines is famously known for switching lines up. When the Predators hired John Hines from after he got fired from New Jersey 2 years ago in 2020, I can just remember on Twitter a lot of the Jersey Devil fans were saying, be prepared that he changes lines every night. So when you lose, the lines are jumbled up. They're this, they're that. There's no consistency. But when you win, they'll tend to stay more the same. And that's what John Hines has done. I don't know who watched the game last night or Monday night when they played Edmonton, but it was an interesting lineup. Philip Forsberg went to the 4th line. Cole Smith, who's a 4th liner, went to the 1st line. Cody Glass played with Nino Niederreiter. He played with Tanner Jeannot. There's just no consistency, and I don't know what to look for on a nightly basis. The Titans and the Preds, you don't know what you're going to get night in and night out, week in, week out. They're not consistent on offense, and that's the thing about the Nashville teams. There's no offense. It's just, you look at the offensive coordinator and the offensive personnel for the Titans, and then you can kind of mimic that with the Preds. They don't score a lot, and they continue to lose. Last week they lost 6-3 to Edmonton. Then they lost 2-1 to Winnipeg in overtime. They scored 1 goal. Then they scored 1 more goal against Colorado on Saturday. 3-1 they lost, and then of course they won this past Monday at home against Edmonton, which is great because usually when the Preds play Edmonton, they get crushed, and they won 4-3 in overtime. It was one of the best games that I've seen the Predators play all year because the defense did enough, the goaltender UC Saros did enough, and the offense did just enough, well balanced. And now, of course, the lines were jumbled, like I said. But now that it's been a week, it's Judgment Day. The Predators, through almost halfway of the season, are 13-4. They're just, They're sixth or fifth in the Central Division right now. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs. So, if you're David Poyle, if you're John Hines, how can you look at this team and you think this team is enough? This team is going to make the playoffs. How can you think this team is going to have success? As a fan, as a person in sports who is watching them, researching them, I don't see them making the playoffs. Unless something drastically turns around and this team goes for it, I don't see that. And with that being said, that's why it's Judgment Day. John Hines is not the coach that David Poyle thought he was. Now, he gave him an extension in the offseason, and it doesn't make sense. He gave him 2 years for an extension, and it doesn't make sense. It's just like the Titans coaches. These coaches don't make sense for the personnel. I don't know if his system is not working because he asks too much of them to play, wall to wall, every night. It's just not working for them. The offense is not there. The defense is not great. Nothing is great with this team. They do just enough to maybe win a couple games here, but lose a couple games there. They're more or less a 500 team, and that's exactly what 13-13-4 says. This team is just not good enough. So John Hines is not the coach for the Nashville Predators moving forward because, like I said, he just doesn't do enough. He doesn't move the needle for what this team requires. Now, unfortunately, in 2017, when the Predators went to the Stanley Cup Final with Peter Laviolette, this franchise and the fans, they expect too much now. And that's very natural. That's human nature. So you go to the Stanley Cup Final, you lose in 6 games to the Pittsburgh Penguins. You follow that up in 2018 with the President's Trophy. You're out in the second round against Winnipeg Jets. And then after that, it's been first-round playoff exits every year since. It's mediocre play style. The offense is not good enough. The defense is not doing enough. When it matters most, this offense and the players do not show up. It's time for a new transition. I'm sorry to say it for those who are listening and who do not want to witness a rebuild with the Predators. It may be time for that. And that's where I'm at. That's where my judgment is sitting. Like I said, it's almost halfway to the season. It's Christmas. It's time for that transition. You're about to start a new year, and I think this Predators team needs a new year. They need a new team, and they need a new coach. It's just, I can't imagine John Hines, if the way the schedule keeps going, or if the way the wins and losses keep balancing the way they're balancing, in heavy favor of the losses lately, I cannot imagine John Hines making it through the rest of the season, in my opinion. I don't think they make the playoffs, and if he makes it to the end of the season and they don't make the playoffs, I think you can kind of bet John Hines is as good as gone. I also believe that David Poyle is not the same GM that he once was. He's not him and his staff does not evaluate players enough. They bring in Philip Tomasino, who is supposed to change this franchise. He's been in Milwaukee all year. Your young guys of Cody Glass, who was a good trade for 2 years ago when you got rid of Ryan Ellis. He was supposed to come in. He played in Milwaukee most of the season last year because he wasn't good enough. He started the year with the Predators. He's been up and down, in and out of the lineup. Not great. Now, he played good on Monday, but does one game really solidify your role in the NHL? No, it does not. The evaluation of talent is just not there as what it may have been earlier. Now, like I said, the expectations of this franchise is much different than it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. The Predators, their general manager, their owner, the Predators fans, they should have high expectations for this team, and they should settle for no less. A Stanley Cup is the end goal, and they have not reached that in their 25 years or whatever of their existence. Mediocrity should not be good enough, and that's what it seems like it is right now. Philip Forsberg, who just signed his 8-year deal, not good enough this year. You're making your money now. Now go earn your money. Matt Duchene he signed that deal in the offseason in 2019. He signed a 7-year deal. I think he has 4 years left. Make your money. Earn your money. You did last year. Now do it again. It should be consistency. You're not having consistency. You signed Nito Niederreiter for a pretty decent contract. Now he's been okay. He's been up and down. He's more or less what you think of a lower caliber second-line player, and he's been playing like that. Mikael Granlund, you re-signed. He's probably going to get gone after the season. Ryan Johansson has a couple years left in his 8-year deal that they signed in 2017-18 season. So your high caliber players, your high money players, they're just not getting it done. Roman Josi, who signed his 8-year deal a couple years ago, he's not getting it done this year. Now look, he had a lot of success last year, like many people did, but it's just not good enough this year. You have to look yourself in the mirror, and you have to understand that you need more from your players. Now look, because you have so much cap space tied into a few players like Johansson, like Forsberg and Josi and Duchesne, it's going to be really hard to get away from these players through the trade market or what have you, so you have to get rid of the other players. With Johansson being towards the end, you're going to have, now some of these players, if you're going to sell them, you're going to have to sell them for a little bit lower because of the talent level that they're displaying on the ice right now. But I think you have to explore the trade market. Not bringing players in, but taking players out and getting assets for the future, because the future of this Predators team is not great. I don't believe that there's a Stanley Cup in our future. That window that opened in 2017 is shut. I don't see how this team can win a Stanley Cup, make the playoffs, do good in the playoffs. Now look, the Stanley Cup playoffs is one of the toughest playoffs that you can play in sports in the world because of the grueling 7-game series for 4 series. It's tough. Now any team can win. The Preds showed that in 2017 by limping into the playoffs and then going to the Stanley Cup final. It can happen again. I'm not saying it can't, but I just don't see this team doing that. They don't have the spark. They don't have the defense, the offense, the goaltending this year just to do that. So you have to look at your young guys like Cody Glass, like Philip Tomasino. Let them play. You got rid of Eeli Tolvanen already, so he's gone. You have to build your future, and your future is very slim right now. There's not a lot of prospects in your system that can say, okay, we can have a good future. We don't have a lot because of the success we've had lately. We don't have the high first-round draft picks to really say there's good prospects in your system. So I think you need to start some trades. I think you need to sell your players, get some assets, get some high caliber, get some high draft picks in this year and the next year's draft, and start building your future. That's just where this team is. They're not going to be successful unless they do otherwise. I think, in my opinion, it's time to start the rebuild. And that starts in the front office, and that goes to the players all the way up and down the lineup. It's not good enough. David Poile has been the GM in this year's 25-year tenure, and I think it's time for him to step down. But I think because of what he's done for this franchise, and I think he's got a special place in Sean Henry's heart, the CEO, and I don't think he'll let him go. It'll be more Poile's decision. That's just my opinion on that. But John Hines is not good enough. I think you need a new head coach. I think you just need a new team, and that's where we're at. Get what assets you can through trade and look to whatever future you may behold. So, well, that's it for today's episode of the Nashville Native. I'm your host, like always, Justin Hawkins. Thank you so much for joining me again, and if you're new, please follow along on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter for all things Nashville sports content. And next week, hopefully we're talking about another Titans win and getting back in that win column. Hopefully we're talking something special and the Nashville Predators standpoint. Maybe we'll get into some college football because we have the bowls coming up. But stay tuned next week. This is the Nashville Native. I'm your host, Justin Hawkins. Thank you. I'll see you next time.